I'm gonna find something more fun than this. The standard the standard thing. Yeah,
Why
I
don't you
got
freestyle, brother?
freestyle. Maybe in about. Let me drink this coffee. I might be able to. How long is this? How long is this? Oh well, it's 3 minutes and 50 seconds. I need to get all your stuff downloaded. We're live. We're live. We're just looking for. F it. We're just looking for a quick intro, just to get people time to come in. We've got about 17 people.
Allison's here.
Let's just put it. Yeah, Allison. We need to bring Allison in.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yes.
That's what I was telling her. I was telling whoever was talking to Marina.
Ernestine.
Yeah, Ernestine's here. Right on. Oh, we're not going to play music today. Hell with that. Play it later. We should have played some. Esau and Mesau. They're very cool people, man. They were on the show. They live out in the wilderness. They live in the.
Oh yes.
Remember them?
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're awesome.
I need to write them down. Let me write them down.
Shanine.
Mulan.
Have you been reading her writings?
Yeah, man. She's opening up. Everybody is. Everybody's opening up. Yep. Angie Parker. It's a real intense time. And I said this on the show. Did I do a show? Yeah. I said it on the show yesterday. Because this started like what? What's today?
Monday.
I think this started on Saturday morning for over here. And so Saturday I've been working all day Saturday, all day Sunday, just been in the studio working and doing some creative stuff and other stuff, but connecting, right? So I started connecting and I said, what the hell's going on here? Because my body is taking a beating, like I'm purging, like I'm nauseated.
Yep.
I ate a hamburger. Well, here's all the people can get mad at me. I ate a cheeseburger on Saturday. That's all I had. And then I had about 5 pieces of pizza yesterday, thin crust. And but I can't eat. And I had three Guinnesses, by the way, 3 Guinness beers. And nothing would settle my stomach. Coffee, I drink a lot of ginger tea. But anyway, so I checked in and I said, what the hell's going on? And I saw this like this, right? A ringing, like, you got like a wet cloth and you're wringing it. Yeah. And I saw that, like an image came in and squeezing all the toxicity out. And people might think toxicity is only what you put in your body, but it's not. That's just a physical, and it certainly has an influence. But I think we know this. The bigger toxicities, and then maybe that's not the right word, but the dense energy. Material, the dense energy that physicalizes in your body is from our thoughts.
Yeah,
it's from our thoughts. Period. So I was sitting there and I heard and I watched the ringing, and I was like, oh wow, that's trippy. And then what happened was I saw sadness, prolonged sadness, anger. What else was there? All the charismatic children of fear, right?
Yeah.
But mostly it was anger. Anger and prolonged sadness and lack. I think those were the 3 big ones. And I was like, and I was looking at it and I was like, okay, are these active in my field? What's going on? And I think I was just being shown a snapshot. I made a list, one of Morgan's list. That's the first thing I did. And I came up with some really cool stuff and worked through that. But yeah, I think, Esau and Mesau had a vision of someone closing a book. Yeah, something like that. It's like, and even talking to Victoria last night on the show, there's something that's I don't think it's like we're on the precipice or on the cusp. I think we're actually in it.
Mm-hmm.
And what's and what the big message I got, and I'm gonna hand it over to you guys. The big message I got was that your body is like fast tracking faster than it ever has now. Like we're squeezing the shit out of you because this thing's going down and the light's coming in so fast. So anything that's stuck, you can sit there and resist it. Uh, you can sit there and be attached to it and wallow in your own shit. That's the way my higher self speaks to me, right? So I haven't been like that, Saturday, Sunday, but I have felt it in my body. I felt huge transformations in my body, and the lucid dreams have been kind of funny and crazy. But man, it's game time. No more bullshit. Either shift or get off the pot, and that's for everybody. Nobody's an exception here, and nobody. And man, last comment. I've seen some crazy projections going on out there by some prominent people having ridiculous arguments on a fucking post, and your spiritual leaders kiss my fucking ass, okay? Because you need to get to the back of the line. Excuse my French. Sorry, but if you're going to put yourself out there and you're going to, and I'm not in that category. I don't consider myself a spiritual teacher at all. I'm just a broadcaster and a producer. So I probably am speaking out of turn, but if you're at this stage of the game, if you're going to put your stuff out there, you better be real careful because the universe is going to hold you accountable. And if you're calling somebody this or that, this is the way I'm getting it. If you say somebody is this or somebody is that, I think it's you. It's something in you. I mean, we say this, it's a cliche almost now, but man, people are following you, man. So like chill the F out, wow. It's not cool.
Yeah, it's been very powerful. And this is actually one of the conversations me and Michael had just yesterday about the energy influx, what it's doing to the body, and the karmic relationships, the connections that are intertwined in that. And then releasing other labels of that, plus this suffrage frequency, that the suffrage mentality that's been going on is like, why do we have to suffer in order to get to what we want and desire? This is one of the things that we wanted to talk about too. And we're like, oh, there's also this vibrational frequency of the resistance that we're trying to clear out. And it's really is moving forward. And I'm like, me and him were talking, we're like, oh my God, we got to write this down.
No, spit it out. You'll remember it. Spit it out.
Yeah.
We got 100 people in the house.
Yeah, I think that I think when throughout the just world community, we've never really talked about, like, we talk about the mirror, but I don't think we really grasp and understand the mirror, right? Because the mirror is supposed to reflect anything that's inside of us that holds the frequency of separation. So to speak an other in any form, like no matter what the spectrum of consciousness is playing out in the external world. So whether it looks like diabolical, evil, heavenly, right? Like consciousness has always been on a spectrum. Like we incarnate and you can have someone vibrating low and dense like an Adolf Hitler, and then you can have a Jesus and a Buddha and an Eckhart Tolle, and you sprinkle this spectrum. But it's like the masters, right? When I think one of the most powerful archetypes is Jesus Christ. And while he's being murdered and put on a cross, he says, forgive them for they know not what they do. And he's referencing that they're vibrating at the unconscious state of separation. So even in that moment, he's saying, forgive them. He's not othering them. And like you talked about, we do see a lot of othering right now. And you're right, from a lot of prominent teachers. And really, that's going to just continue to perpetuate until they can fully feel what's stagnant within their own form, and just kind of loving it all out, because all of us, like, still have fragments of separation, and we're clearing them. But like you talked about before we jumped on, a lot of us are clearing them. We're aware of them in the dream state, and we're not projecting them, because if we project them, we just create more karmic loops. So it's okay, I feel this separation, it's inside of me, it's uncomfortable, it does not feel good. But instead of going out in the external world and blaming other people for why I feel so uncomfortable, I'm just going to breathe into the feeling while it dissolves. And I think that we're just, some of us are afraid, and some of us just aren't aware of how to clear the energy, which is non-resistance. Feel it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Like me. Like me even saying, they can kiss my effing ass, because that's othering, and I probably should have started 10 minutes late instead of 5, but I guess, the thing is, I feel for the masses. I don't know. I just take it seriously, like the frequency that is put out there, and I was a little bit. I've watched it happen. We've all watched it happen. Projection, and it is a teacher. Thank you, Janie. I mean, it's like it's there for us to observe, And I love what you said about the dream state thing, which is cool, because most of my purging's done in dream state. And from what you're saying, that means that my higher self has kind of arranged that, which is kind of cool, which means I must be connecting with it, because I'm not really, in real deep in the othering thing. But what I was going to say is, I remember about 4 or 5 months ago, Morgan pulled down in our nightly thing that certain spiritual leaders, that are out there, have actually chosen to publicly implode, to publicly project. They've actually chosen to do that at a very high level, and the reason for that is they'll kind of do that. They'll implode and they'll project, and then they'll transform. And they'll be able to trigger people like me. They triggered me, so they can go into a self-analysis, and also they're doing it so people can actually see the transformation when it occurs. So it's a reminder to myself,
Well, but what's powerful with what you're saying is, I don't think that there's anything wrong with observing what's happening. And I think that's one of your greatest roles is, even Shanine put fire by your name earlier, like Todd with fire, right? Like you have this, like, I look at it as like the sword of truth. And that's part of your blueprint, like your makeup. You really know how to illuminate truth. You just cut straight through it. You talk in the straight line. And that's what people love. And in saying that there's a vibrational frequency out in the world masking itself as truth, but it's a vibrational frequency of othering and dichotomy. Like you saying that's not bad. That's good, because you're literally, that truth is rippling out, because a lot of people are unconsciously tethered to the old archetype of like hierarchical learning, when really the new paradigm is turn within, right? Someone who is more self-actualized isn't telling you what to look at or how to think.
Yeah.
They're teaching you how to see, or encouraging you to learn how to think for yourself. Yeah. And so when you say that, you're like, literally your energy is part of the new paradigm in literally creating initiations for us to stop looking out there and pull our power back inside. So when you say that, it's important. You started right on time, and saying that is good for me. It's good for Dolly. It's good for everyone watching. We need to hear that, because how long were we engrossed in, children shall be seen and not heard. You don't question the priest, the pastor, the spiritual guru. But no, all of that is dismantling. Every single power structure has the signature of the ego and the pain body, and nothing's off limits. Everything has to be transformed, starting with ourselves. So in honoring that, like I always say, I don't have like affliction towards like world leaders or what's playing out by any means, but you know, the sun shines, the sky is blue, and we're not going to call a fish a bird. So let's honor the frequency that we feel. And if you're not feeling the frequency that's being transmitted from certain forms, then that means that you're still not accessing the inner feeling of the spirit, which is where discernment comes from.
Yeah.
You know, so I love that you come in with the sword. It's one of my favorite things.
Okay. Then I can go back to the F-bombs. Okay.
I think sometimes those are needed. They really are. It's like a clearing in many ways, with everything that's going. It's like, oh my God, I just can't, you know? And it gets us back into like, okay, what can I do? What am I doing? How am I moving forward? And then just like you said, you woke up and right away you started doing your list so you can start working on that. And there's just so many things people are not talking about that overall. It's like what's in their field. So I've been having conversations as well, even with Allison. It's like, oh, I'm seeing this is coming up. And I was like, what is it in my field that's coming up? And we start to really question. I think that's one of the powerful things, that putting yourself out there and saying certain things like that. It's like, oh, reflection. What am I doing that's bringing this stuff up? And then when we see all those other people project and just, you know, we see it, we're like, okay, they're right there. Triggered or not, we're like, we're going to let them honor their truth. And that's what they're at.
Yeah. I mean, there's some pretty good comments here. I can't put them up because they'll go across Daya's face. But yeah. Okay. So let me be more specific. And I'm not, okay. This is the perfect example, because I want to make it clear. And this example will show it. I'm not calling any individual out publicly.
No.
That is not cool. Okay. That is not cool. And it is all about me. It's never them, it's me. But I'm observing as I observe the field that I work with, because I've said all along, I don't consider myself to have, I think we all have the same skills and abilities. Some are more enhanced than others, and some less. But I know one thing, I can read the field. I can see the field of the people. That's why I always sit in this chair on the show, and I represent the people. I don't, and people used to say, and Morgan used to say to me all the time, why do you dumb it down? Why do you dumb it down? I'm not dumbing it down. I'm trying to make sure that there's a universal question, that there's a universal explanation from the guest, you know? So what I'm getting at is I can see the field and I'm biased to the field. I feel like I represent them. Okay, this is just me talking to me. I'm just sharing this with you.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I saw, and I didn't just see it once, I saw it 3 or 4 times. I saw spiritual leaders, self-anointed, I'm very unique because I'm connected to this and I'm connected to that. And I'm not, and they don't come out and say, and you're not, but they might as well. Okay. Arguing in public about their spiritual, you know, whatever you want to call it. So I think that stuff needs to be done. It would serve us better if it was done, but I guess it's got to come out, you know, so whatever, it's got to come out. And that's okay. Because otherwise we wouldn't see it. And if we see it, like me, and I get triggered by it, then I know I got to go, you know, go to work and do my list, do whatever it may be. And I came up with some great words Saturday. But what was the other thing? So then, okay, this is something I think that is going to go away. And I'm not charged on this, okay? And that is what people call themselves.
Yeah.
Like, I am a such and such, such and such. And I think it's okay, like, you know, I'm an attorney, or I'm this, or I'm that. And some people in the spiritual community, as teachers, practitioners, and leaders, or whatever you want to call it, their name's okay. You know, they don't get carried away with it. They just say like, I'm a quantum therapist, or I'm a whatever. But some of them are like, they're a little bit out there. You know what I mean? And I'm not making fun of them. What I'm saying is those are going to go away.
Mhm.
Those labels are going to go away first, and they'll probably all go away. You know, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's just different things I saw during this time, and I have not seen, I have not seen a more intense time than the last, I want to say 3 or 4 days in
Yeah.
observing the field, the community,
Yeah.
and myself.
Well, and Shanine just wrote a comment that said, turning rocks thrown by ourselves at ourselves for us to turn into diamonds.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that's deep, because it's right. Like, the paradigm shift is moving out of the false sense of separation into unity consciousness, where we see every form as one.
Yeah.
And so where the beauty is, but you know, we kind of like have this habitual you know, default to label everything. But where the beauty is that all of this triggering, it's like all these bullets are flying, and it's literally to transmute separation in every single form. And then these bullets are just like ricocheting off of the planet, and they continue to, you know, transmute energy in each of us, so we can move into the nameless state, which is what you're talking about. And I agree with you. Like for me, like, I don't even like it, like on my profiles, you don't see, like, it just says Michael. It doesn't say poet. It doesn't say anything, because like, as I've started to like expand just inside of myself, every time someone puts a word, or I put a word on myself, I literally feel the limitation of the word, because the energy's expansive, it's limitless, and I feel it grow. And every time I put a word on it, I feel like the energy go like this.
Yeah.
And so you're right. I think that unconsciously there's identification there still. There's attachment there when we start labeling ourselves spiritual teacher, this, that. I mean, it's really about how you make people feel.
Yeah.
Right? Like, being a light worker is, do people feel light when they're around you? Do they feel love? Do you even have to speak, or is the frequency that you're maintaining going to ripple out into the external and touch their heart, where it can bring them to tears?
Yeah.
You know, like, where they're just going to automatically go into a purge or an initiation, you know? And it's like, that's the light. And once you start experiencing it inside yourself or from other people, you know, with the codes and in writings and poetries and conversations, you don't need to label it, because our spirit feels it. We're feeling beings. And in the old paradigm, we lost our ability to feel. All we could feel was our pain. So now that we're feeling again, we just get to feel the love. And I think that's what's healing. So I agree with you. I think that we're transcending labels, and we're moving back into the faceless, nameless, eternal state. And not even a need for a lot of language at times.
Yeah. Less is more.
Yeah.
There's definitely one. I mean, I felt that and I saw that too. Just going through certain things, it's like sometimes I don't even need to write it. I just open up Facebook and there it is. So Saskia had posted something profound, that saying removing a label. And later that same day, in my feed, I saw Judith Kuso talking about what the label does to a person.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the constructs and everything else is like, oh, this person just becomes this label. And we really are moving into a time where that's being dissolved completely and getting back into the energy of things. And I do agree, when somebody is at a certain state and you're bringing that energy in, you don't have to say it. It pulls people into your field. And we do activate other people somehow, even if it's a trigger. It would definitely be a way to really see the self as well. Because that's one of the biggest thing that's been coming up too, is just like, oh, okay, what even with the things that are presented, that whole aspect of mirror and how we see the universe, because we're all conscious unity. We're just having experiences in many different forms. And just like Todd says, there's like a billion Earths out there just experiencing at the same time.
Mm. Yeah. Well, and I think, I really think that there's a very strong possibility that, okay, because spiritual bypassing, okay, that has, like, I've seen that explained like 5 different ways, and they're all right. Okay. But to me, spiritual bypassing is staying up there or resting on your connection or what you've pulled down,
Mhm.
and avoiding the human.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think there's a strong probability that what our contribution is to the expansion of the universe, because that whole thing about everything happened at one time, and I think it's bigger than that. I think the present is the present, and it's not happened before. It might have happened in the energetic field, and then we're going to play it out, but there's still something going on here. And what I'm trying to say is, I think the contribution that we're making is actually the body going through what it's been going through the last 2-3 days, the projection, the self introspection, the expansions that come from being raw and real and vulnerable and uninhibited and brave. I think that it comes from that, and it's not a pretty picture all the time. I think the expansion comes from living. It's never them, it's always me.
Yeah.
And I think it comes from not just saying it, but doing it. I think that's what we're given to the universe. The human beings are fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
They are. I've always struggled with, I love Franco. I talked to him this weekend. I messaged him, and we're going to schedule 3 shows between now and the end of the year. He's been doing great work, him and Kimberly. And I've always struggled with, and I respect his intel. I actually resonate more with his intel than anyone else outside of myself and Morgan. Morgan's 1. Franco would be 2, but Franco's intel is a little bit different than Morgan's. So in terms of like what he puts out there, I like his. But anyway, he says, from what he understands, and I believe him, but I have to make my own decision. Or I would say this, I think there's more to the story. He says that the soul has a lineage, right? The soul has a lineage going back to the central sun, let's just say. And that the human has a lineage. I was, 800 lives or 900 lives. And I always think about that. And I asked him like 5 different times on the shows, what the hell I don't get it. It is the human, like, is it like in the same category? You know what I mean? But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I think that this is what's happening, that the human is actually coming out and being accepted into, and I'm talking up here, being accepted into the universal family as a bona fide consciousness. Like I've said before, there might be an incarnation 5 times, 5 lives from now, or 5 millennia, and I'm in a thick polarized realm, and I reach into my, from my field, I reach out, I appeal to the universe, and it may be Todd Medina, the consciousness of Todd Medina, that helps that aspect of me or someone else in another incarnation, just as Archangel Michael does, or another divine essence could be. You know what I mean? I think we're becoming equal universal citizens as a species, if that's the right word. Yeah.
When you're saying that, how I see it, how I feel it, when you're talking, it feels like, yes, the soul does have lineage all the way to the central sun. And how the separation with the human, it's a different vibration. And it's like we chose to come down as the soul to inhibit this vibration of humanity and to lift and connect to that as the Vedical soul, it taps in. It's like a tree to me. How you're talking is just like reminds me like a tree, connecting back into the top of the root. And it's like, oh, you're leveling up and humanity's leveling up.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the biggest thing. And this is why we're having this huge shift. And I think no matter where people are in any level of their journey, it's just more unfolding that happens. And regardless of what well, I wouldn't say programs, modalities, and other things that they're using to get to their working through their own personal stuff and seeing through and getting back into the sovereign being in the soul, it's going to really push them to realizing finally the unity consciousness of it all.
Yeah.
And start releasing all those labels, all the structures, all those things, because it's no longer going to apply. I really don't see other things. I mean, they're shoving things left and right, and then political, religious, other groups, belief systems, and this separation. And it's really, really pushing people to stay within, like zero pointing it.
Mm. Yeah. I'm with you. And Pamela Johnson. See, I think she's a great example of what Michael was saying earlier. It's just her. She supports everyone. She's always there, and she doesn't get up on the pulpit. You know what I mean? She just does it. But she made this great comment. The Syrians have certain qualities. The Pleiadians, Orions, etc., have specific qualities. The new human embodies them all. I'm with her.
No, I agree with that. I mean, this is about there's the title that no longer applies to star seeds that resonate more with one or the others. We're bringing that exact energy into this in the now.
Yeah.
What I think I've been feeling is that the soul itself, right, is healing all of its wounds through incarnations. And then the soul's also retrieving within itself all aspects of higher dimensional being from other incarnations. So as those wounds healed, then we're also able to embody heal the wounds in the soul and then embody the wisdom of the soul. So now the soul itself becomes illuminated so the spirit can move back into the soul. And so the spirit is the source of creation. And what the human is actually going through right now in the new paradigm is healing the soul so the spirit can move back into the soul. And that's how we're going to see the spirit of oneness, because the same spirit's being ignited in a multitude of forms.
That's very good. Like the soul is the bridge.
The soul's the bridge. And so the spirit's even could possibly be a new experience for a lot of forms, because a lot of past lives, a lot of us are experiencing our past lives, or that wisdom's being unlocked. And but the spirit itself, right, embodies everything, right? And that's the new human is having a new experience where the spirit's moving into the body, right? So there's past incarnations where you could have been Palladian or Arcturian and all of these different aspects, but those aspects are being integrated. The soul's wounds are being transmuted, and the spirit's moving into the human. And that's where the law of the mirror is going to dissolve.
Yeah.
And we're literally going to be pure spirit in form, knowing that we're looking at ourselves in just a different aesthetic.
That's that's deep, but that's very accurate to me. Like, and it gives me even a higher respect for the human, because I think it's easy to say, I think it's probably, we could get at least a majority consensus that the soul woke us up. Like the soul, when people come on the show and they say, "Hey, I was highly sensitive when I was a kid, and then, and then I got suppressed," and I think that's the soul, like we might say even like the galactic says, what am I doing here? Whatever. But the even though the soul wakes you back up, or was like, I can speak for myself, but that voice was always there, but it got really loud. And then I went on my, started my path, but it's always the human who pulls the trigger. You know what I mean? The human is the one that has to consciously come in and do what needs to be done. The soul can't do it. So what you're saying is, you can call it higher self, soul, whatever. And that makes sense to me, because we're becoming less dense, and that can't come into the body. I watched, I love Robert Sepper. And I went back and watched one of his episodes. I watched like 3 this weekend. And this one was in regard to Adam and Eve, right? And it talked about how gods, goddesses, whatever, wanted to experience the physical. And that's kind of how the whole thing started. So, and of course, we got away from it. And now we're coming back to it. And it makes sense to me that again, like we talked about at the top of the show, the body, like the body's purging, it's being squeezed, it's being drip dried so that it can take in what, and I think Michael's made a connection there in the spirit science part of it, that so that the soul, the spirit can come in and actually stay. Lisa Renee, Candace, has Lisa Renee been on? No, but anybody know her? Ask her. I think we've reached out to her. Morgan has.
I saw Saskia was on a second ago. Hey, sister.
Saskia is amazing.
Yeah, that show was phenomenal.
Saskia is amazing. I mean, Saskia could get on with she could get on with a coffee cup, and it would be amazing,
well, just her energy, it's exactly like that. She just has this energy, and you're just like, okay. And it's all that frequency that she also carries. So when she posts, when she's there, I mean, even now, when you connect to somebody or text message somebody, we're getting to the point of level of sensitivity where we're like, oh, they're not in a good place, I'm not going to touch it. or you can really feel and read through the energy. You're like, oh, okay. And it doesn't even have to be face to face or a person.
Yeah.
I mean, people we have never met in person that we can message and we connect to, we can feel that energy. And she's one of those people that you can just really feel her energy, and it's powerful.
Saskia just said it's torture. I'm dying to chat with you. I'm going to send her the link.
Yeah.
I'm going to send her the link.
Send her the link.
Let's have her on.
Yeah, we'll just do a spontaneous thing here. Let me just pull it up.
Well, maybe this is the thing that I saw, Michael. I told him I saw Saskia coming in when we're talking. I was like, oh, she just came in. I don't know what the connection is.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. See, I mean, it's instant manifestation. Well, see,
jump on, Sister Saskia.
Yeah, if she wants to. No pressure, man. But yeah, that's cool. Yeah, what you're saying is true too, right? Because I always talk about the messages I get and that I can't answer and all that. And so I had this one because they've been coming in like crazy, like in the last 10 days. Like it's not even. Sometimes it would spike and then they would go down. Now they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger every day. So this one. Contemporary messaged me and asked me to come on. Oh, she says not now. She's in her pajamas. But so this person asked me to collaborate with them, and the date was out, a ways, at least a couple of weeks, and I didn't answer it because I didn't have. I figure I got other ones I can get to first because that one doesn't need an immediate answer. And then I got a couple of voicemails, which I didn't listen to because I didn't have time. And then I got another one, and the voicemails had been erased, and the deal was kind of taken off the table. But I'm not. I hope if they hear this, they don't get upset, because I'm not trying to make fun of anybody. What I'm trying to say is what Delia said. Yeah, you can pick up the energy real easy now. I mean, I think it's always been there, and we kind of honed our skills in 2012, 13, 14. I've talked about it before in the show, where we were sending messages to people. We never had that before. We never had instant messaging. And, and then you'd just get these people that would send images. They wouldn't even talk. They would just send images or on posts, and you're like, whoa. But you really got them. But now I think it's like we're literally going to be walking down the street and hearing strangers
thinking
thoughts. You know what I mean? Like, there's not going to be anywhere to hide.
Yeah, and I think it's starting with the energy, just their vibration. You can start picking up on what they have, and even if it doesn't feel good or there's distortions, your body tells you. You're like, ooh, don't go that way. It really does. And bringing back to that whole part that you were talking about, how your body's going through this clearing. I mean, in order for us to get more energy and in tune with that, it needs to go through this clearing of purging through the physical body. And it also includes sometimes foods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm going to go back to what Michael said earlier, because I specifically asked my higher self, I always feel funny saying that now, but to let me purge in dream state. And I don't even know if I asked for dream state. I just said with more ease and grace, because I was getting killed, man, for a while. And this is a few months back, and it all changed. So I think if it's not already happening, I think I'm going to make that direct command to work out anything I need to work out in dream state.
Yeah.
Because I think I know that we, just like programming the DNA or I've been looking at my body a lot lately. I've been going in and looking at my organs, my lungs, my kidneys, my liver, and it's fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, I've glanced before, but I've never gone in that deep. I mean, I'm seeing like everything.
That one's really interesting. I actually got brought that part up with Dr. Joe Dispenza. Talks about the neuropriming the body and the mind, talking to your third eye and going into your third eye and connecting to all your organs. How to have instant healing. This is just also going through that same thing, talking to your body, even if it's meditative state or not meditative state. It's kind of like how Dolores Cannon would talk about having instant healing in a quantum healing session. If the body in the higher self aligns with that, because that is the path, it will definitely have some clearing.
Something I've found really fascinating around food and diet is that with the old paradigm, we were meant to eat denser. So it's like, even, like everything's perfect, but then we unconsciously were questioning the perfection of how we used to eat, because denser foods kept duality locked in place, right? Like everything was heavy. So while we're transmuting, I've known, because I was plant-based for 6 years, but while I was transmuting, the energy was so accelerated. I would wake up and I couldn't even keep down water because I wasn't putting heavy food inside of my body. So it's like our body is going through this transformation where when denser aspects are leaving, it requires denser food at times. And where we are challenged to meet that experiences with non-conceptuality, and where we don't judge ourselves, and where we can also witness our attachment to food and diet. Because it's like, I actually, when I was, and I'm not saying this is everyone's experience, but my own experiences, when I was plant-based for 6 years, I actually had a heavier attachment to body image, what I was intaking, judging what everyone else was eating, And it wasn't until I was brought to my knees, my adrenals started shutting down.
Yeah.
My esophagus was so swollen, I had to go into the hospital. I was so deficient in vitamins that I couldn't eat for a few days, and they had to like hook me up and to an intravenous. And literally, I needed that experience to break my attachment and conceptuality to veganism.
Yeah.
So it was really profound. So it's like now what I try to do is just literally close my eyes and ask my body, like, what are you asking for? What do you need to cross this threshold? I'm not judging you. I'm here to support you. So it could be days of juicing, salads, vegetables, rice, grains, where I'm eating just plant-based. And it can turn into days of dense food, milkshakes, French fries, a cheeseburger, you know? It's like we really have to, if we're able to witness it, we're evolving out of these denser aspects.
Yeah.
So we are gonna move into lighter foods, and we might even move into just liquids,
Yeah.
you know, eventually. And some of us, our bodies have already taken that on, and that's beautiful and powerful. Some of us, our bodies haven't yet. Some of us are emotionally, mentally understanding what's happening, but our bodies are a little further behind. So I think it's just always, if we're ever judging ourselves, we know we're not understanding what we're meant to understand. We're not accessing the full potential of understanding what we're going through, and so I think it's just like right now I feel like just less attached to what I eat and honoring it. And my sweats were getting a little tight through this 10/10 new moon portal. And I was like, it's all right, Michael, you're doing the best you can.
Yeah. Saskia says that quesadillas are 5D.
Saskia knows my go-to.
Yeah. And Heather Nielsen says she's all of a sudden craving ribs, steak, and pork after not eating these things for 16 years. Yep. I've not been a heavy red meat eater. I used to like pork, but I don't even eat pork hardly at all, ever. And but I had to eat I ate like 2 or 3 steaks in a week. Like I went to a restaurant and ordered a steak. Like,
was this this week?
This was last week.
That was Israel ate 3 or 4 steaks.
I don't normally do that, but I had to eat a steak. I went to an Italian restaurant and I ordered a steak. So I know that was my body telling me. And I eat a lot of eggs, so I imagine I get protein from that. So I don't know what it was. I don't know, but I have noticed on some of the shows people making comments about eating meat, that they hadn't been eating meat, hadn't been part of their lifestyle. But so yeah, it's all over the place. That's another thing I got this weekend too, and let me see if I can pull it back. And it had something to do with what's ingested in the body, or I know what it was. It was about, I got a couple of bad habits, right? Whatever. I don't consider them bad habits. I'm just saying. And I remember, okay, so what I was told this weekend, and it really came in clear, because I was having this conversation that we're having. Like, why do I feel like this? Why can't I eat this? Why do I want to eat that? And, can I have a beer? And so on. And I was just told, you just stop freaking worrying about it. Just follow the guidance like you do on everything else. Stop damning yourself. Yep. Stop worrying about it, because that's what gets you. And that's what we started the show with, right? About the energy that gets blocked and restricted and then physicalizes. That's where it comes from. It can come from diet, but it's especially now, it's going to be like, I've noticed this, like two mornings ago. Okay. Yesterday, I woke up and like my body, there was nothing in my stomach at all. Nothing in, everything was gone, and it didn't come out normally. Like there's some really crazy stuff going on with the body. Mm-hmm. And I really feel like that whole ringing out thing is going a lot deeper than we might think. And I really think we're going to start to see some clear evidence of that, including what you were talking about earlier with the instant healing and that type of thing. because that's been going on for quite some time. You know,
Yeah.
but I mean, to see it more and more in the field, this is what I want to get into with David Icke. I want to get into, anyone that's watched him, that we know he's probably one of the number one researchers in the world, right? For 30 plus years. So all the conversations I've seen him have been around these subjects, which is rightfully so. But does he know that there is an entire community out there under the radar, off the alt news, off the alternative sites, even that they're all over the world that have had the same type of wake up experience he has in the 90s, that have had the same type of guidance and have followed that guidance, and they're all over the world without any notoriety for the most part? Does he know about all these women that have had these memories come in and that were afraid to step up because of what occurred to them in past incarnations and the gifts that they bring? Does he know about all this stuff? Does he feel that the I am soul is more powerful than this fucking Illuminati that everyone gets overly intimidated by? Because if they weren't intimidated by it, why the hell would they be talking about it all the time? I mean, these are the kind of conversations that we have here, and I want to invite them to have the conversation on the show.
Yeah, I think that's going to be more interesting. I think this is what we're coming. I've always said, and I said it, I think, to you, Todd, before. He's like the town crier energy, where he's telling people, and it's like, hey, this is what's going on. And he's done amazing to wake people up and realization of what's going on. But what do you do with that information after? How are you helping, and what are you doing after you being the town crier and everything else? What is your overall terms of what am I doing here? How can I shift? And if it's one of those things too, is when you see people that, okay, this is it, this is where the level, they can't move forward. And it's the attachments that they have, because what is after that? What is after that, after they've come out and said all those things? Is it going to turn around and look at himself? What happens with all of that in terms of expansion, as also for his soul, for himself, or whatever his role is? As all those people that are out there that have been doing the work. I mean, there's a lot of people that I know too that are very skeptical of David Icke.
Mm-hmm. I know. I've been getting a lot of messages.
Yeah. And I understand that. And I told him, hey, you know what? Well, this is Soulogy, and we do things different. So it's going to be massive, and it's going to be expensive, because we are going to be able to ask those tough questions, not just be the conspiracy and this is what's only going on. Because we can get into that and everything else. Anybody can get into that. Yeah. But what do you end up getting from that in the end? What expansion and what things that we come up from that? Because you can tell when those people are really attached to the role, or you can see when they're talking it out. And this is one of the biggest things that you do very well, Todd, is bringing it back and looping it back into like, well, this is where we're at. What do you think about this? Like, how are we expanding with all this?
Well, one of the things too is because I'll preface it, when we start the show, is to explain to him that this is the community he's talking to. Mm-hmm. We've all had wake up experiences like you did. We've all been getting divine guidance like you have. He's doing what he's doing because he's been divinely guided to do that. And I think, and I've watched him many times. I've seen people just be stupid with him, and he's gotten a little, we have that in common. He could get a little bit fiery, but he's usually very, he's for the level of attacks that I've watched him go through. He's done pretty good with it. And I think he's also the type of person, he's very reasonable, that you can have a conversation with, such as Q. Thank you, Joseph Lamb, our friend. I think that's a conversation that needs to be had as well. Now, I know that he's not, and I don't blame David Icke, because of the level of research that he's done, and anyone that's done any research knows that both sides of every single conflict and aspect of our journey that's been historically documented has been controlled by one. So why would you start trusting either side now? Now, it's okay to have these conversations. Cognitive dissonance can serve either polarity, you know? So these conversations need to be had. And at the end of the day, this is a trip about the individual, right? Morgan says the road to oneness is through our individuality.
Yes.
Owning that, you know, and so anything that looks to usurp our power or dilute our power or diminish our power, to me, is a threat to that. There is nothing else, you know. And I just think he'll have those type of conversations, and I think there's a lot of subject matter out there. And Allison says, this is another thing. Where is he at on his journey? She'd like to know, where is he at on his journey? And I think that's probably worth more than anything.
Yeah, exactly.
After all these years, what's going on with you? Where are you at? You know?
I love what Morgan just said, because I think that's the biggest initiation we're all going through, is that we are finally being offered the collective opportunity to access the inner wisdom of source energy within our form.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and someone else said earlier, everyone's playing a role, everyone's played a role. And that's true. Like, for me, it's honoring that. You know, I don't really know much. I haven't really, I think I've seen one video my cousin sent me a long time ago of David's, but honoring that every form, whether they are conscious of it or not, has been conspiring for this shift. So that form, right? Like, if you're the form that's carrying out the mission of conspiracy theory, if that's what it's called, it's you were creating initiations in the people who were so closed off that would have never seen what was happening in the old paradigm of duality, right? So like, all of a sudden those experiences come in to open them up, and then you have the people that are coming after to say, now it's time to pull our power back and look inside. And then you have the other people, right? And like, but everyone literally, like, it's like fish when they're, or birds when they're all flying together in a flock. The collective consciousness, whether we understand it or not, all of our roles are leading us to line up in formation right now.
Yeah.
And so it's like, we're able to honor the work. And whether we realize it or not, there is an inner dignity inside of every human being, because every single one of us is being governed by the source.
Man.
So it's all moving, you know, on time, divine time.
Go, Todd, go do it.
I can't. All I can say is a star is born. Many stars are being born. I am so excited that there's more faces of Soulogy that are here now, finally. And Michael, you're just amazing. Delia, you're amazing. You know, I mean, but you're right. And so, did you watch the show with the two guys from Australia, the father and son?
Yes. So
Did
my
you?
spirit
Okay.
guide was like, yes, on certain things,
Yeah.
but it was relating towards, yes, there has been life before. There is a connection. And it's the same thing like many other people have pulled down, and the same thing that even Dolores Cannon have been working her entire life with. But then it started like, I didn't resonate too much with it. And I'm like, it's okay. It's, you know, that's their journey.
Yeah, some of it. Yeah. 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 Because it was, yeah. But what I liked, what I was going to bring up was when he talked to the elders, and I said this on another show, but when he talked to the elder Aboriginals and they said, how many people do you think are ready? And he said 50%, and then it went down to 2%. And he said he wasn't even in that group. The bottom line is whether it's the Illuminati, George Soros, whoever else you named, Joseph, you're going to be put in a situation sooner or later, and on one end is going to be who you feel is most separate from you, what energy is most separate from you, what is the devil, what is Satan, what is the worst thing you can think of, and on the other end is going to be your highest point of light. And until you love, respect, and honor and revere both of them in the same light, you won't pass through the needle, right?
Yeah.
It just won't happen. So you can say all you want, and I can say all I want, but that's really what it's coming down to. How is soul, like Michael said, how's the soul spirit going to enter the body if the body is carrying, because our thoughts, to me anyway, our thoughts are the most powerful, energetic, they're the generator. They control our field. They control our interactions with others. They control our level of manifestation and ease and grace. So if you're carrying thoughts of separation in your head, it ain't going to happen. It might happen to degrees, but we can all tell now this thing is moving very, very fast. So the demands are being made more and more on us. And I would just be real careful to follow any narrative, because following any narrative is a potential of what did I say earlier?
Attachment.
Well, yeah. What do you call it? I can't remember what it's called. When you won't listen to anything else.
Were you talking cognitive dissonance?
Cognitive dissonance, yeah. Because any narrative is that you follow, that you say this is the way it is. It doesn't mean that you wouldn't like it to be that way. It just means you got to stay open. You can't. We have to be careful about the narratives we follow, because we're opening ourselves up to cognitive dissonance, and because our thoughts are creating everything, a cognitive dissonance perpetuates the bullshit, and I think we're all ready to get out of it.
Yeah.
It's powerful. This is it. I mean, I really did love the fact that there is another person coming up and saying in the show that December 21st, it just keeps coming up. A lot of people are getting that information. It doesn't matter where their intel or their info is coming up, what they feel like they're coming, but it keeps popping up. There's obvious that there's an energetic energy around that. Not just because it's a solstice, not just because there's planets alignments. It's the whole play and the energy that's coming together, that it's all there for a reason too. I mean, they do lend their energies, of course, but for all souls to say, well, we're definitely going to be doing something on this day, and it's going to push us forward more into what's going to be coming up for 2021. And whatever those times is this, we're moving through. Somebody just put the fast forward button on for us. I feel like from September to now, or is it? I can't even remember time. It's just been like that nonstop.
Yeah, it has. Absolutely, it has. Go ahead. I'm just multitasking here because I'm seeing. I'm getting stuff downloaded as we're doing this.
Yeah.
Trippy.
Yeah, so there's one of those other things too that I've even have shared, because I sometimes do the kind of like energy forecast, and I start seeing the Schumann's resonance spike, and I looked at the energies surrounding, as well as other things that are amplifying the energies that are there in planets as well, does also help add to the energy of the field in what we want to create. Yeah. Since I do agree, I mean, it doesn't matter what Star Galactic family, but they all know one thing for sure, is that thoughts create things, and overall is their main power source. Being able to navigate through space is through thought.
Yeah.
And we're eventually going to get to that part, how we're doing manifesting. We're in manifesting school. And this at this very moment is learning how to refine our thinking, learning how we're asking and refining things that we want to also, because this is one of the biggest things that I've learned is with ease and grace.
Yeah.
To do and say and to think about, because it's like if you're saying, hey, I want a car, I want a new car, I want a car, I want a new car, it's going to create some way, possibly even in a car accident. You're like, well, now you get a new car. You didn't,
I think
say specifics.
The level of the closer we move to instant manifestation, right? Okay, so Pamela, again, I love Pamela. She says, I know the purer the thoughts, the greater the power of manifestation and embodiment. I think that the universe has a yoke around our neck. And what it really comes down to is when the greater our power becomes, she's right, is proportionate to our level of purity in our thoughts. Because that's a huge responsibility to be given instant manifestation. If you look at Atlantis and Lemuria, they may have been 4D or 5D. But they were physical existences where there was an irresponsible use of the creations that were made. So I don't know that they were 5D. You know what I mean? I mean, people talk about, but I don't know if that's true, because unless the universe had a more loose hold on the soul at the time, I don't know. But to me, that's what it is. It's not about anything else, because look, nobody knows your thoughts yet, right? You have this thing going on with the universe. That's the truth. There's nothing you can hide. And so the universe isn't going to do it for us. We have to do it. We have to be conscious at all times and continue to increase our frequency in terms of the thoughts we carry forward. And as we become more masterful of that, we'll see, and this is what's happening. We're seeing it happen. Mm-hmm. We're getting more and more in tune with that, what you call the ease and grace and the purity of the manifestations themselves and the purity of the process itself, because it's originating with our thoughts. You know, the God's not going to hand us the keys to the castle and crown us king or queen unless we've reached a level of mastery, and that's really what mastery of our thoughts, mastery of ourselves, because that's where it starts and stops.
Yeah. And so something that I've really appreciated that's been coming in to my field of awareness is Shanine's been writing a lot about like the ego and loving our ego and loving our humanness, or loving when we fall short, not, like integrating that aspect. And I think it's like when we see manifestation, we've always manifested, we've always co-created, but it's now we're starting to co-create with source. So that's why that manifestation but is like kind of saturated in light rather than pain. And so before, manifestations kind of like, I think of it like it's always been instant, but it was, were we manifesting self-sabotaging energy, because the universe wanted to show us, oh, you're functioning from lack again. Oh, you don't think you have enough, so I'm going to make sure I manifest not enough for you. Like, so now that switches, the manifestations just moving from pain to purity.
Yeah.
Right. But both were always serving. And that's why I appreciated her perspective of the ego, because that was still divine, and it was still a gift, because the universe was mirroring our pain to us. Right. And how we were moving through the world, because it wanted us to remember that we were always held. We were always loved. Yeah. We forgot what we were.
Yeah.
Right. But what we were was eternal. So yeah, now just experiencing that shift where manifestation isn't with our pain. And one of her recent poems was, her face was full of golden tears. you know? And I loved that because it's like where we integrate our pain by loving it. We never loved our pain. We resisted our pain. We turned away from our pain. We said whatever caused our pain was an enemy. But now what's shifting for us is we see that they were a servant of love called by ourselves in another form, right? And those tears became golden and the heart began to blossom again. So we see that everything was always perfect. We're moving back into seeing that everything's right on time. It's beautiful, you know?
Yeah, it's that thing too that when we learned and we start to move forward towards forgiveness as well. And I've been using 0 points. So that's one of the things that to really see. And I even told Michael yesterday, it's like, yeah, you know, this things that are coming up and everything else is starting to see, feel, and know that no matter what those circumstances were, good or bad, that has made us who we are now. And we have to appreciate and honor that, regardless of what we thought in the past, regardless of everything else, and really shift towards a higher aspect to really accepting it and have that inner wisdom. And it's also that thing, says how my spirit guide has taught me too. It's just been like knowing and accepting the wisdom, and we can really allow and release the pain from it. Really let go of that hold that we have of that person hurt me, to really just move into forgiveness and accept an allowance also that the roles that they're also played. Because after all, we have co-created this experience, no matter how hard, painful, and hurtful it had been. It really has pushed us further into a way where we can move forward into life with all the inner wisdom. And even if we've lived it or seen it in another person, we can also gain inner wisdom from all that in perspective.
Yeah. It was interesting. Friday night when we lay down, nothing was said, and that happens sometimes. I've said that, and I immediately was shown. I was shown each phase of my life. So, like, say till 8 or 9 years old, and then like school, and then like high school, and then college, and then okay. So instead of it being individual people, I was being shown who I was in that phase of my life, what my experience was, and where the imbalances were, which were mostly with people, but not just people. It could be a company I worked for. It could be, so there was other blocks of energy that were, I guess, comprised of people. All right. And it was very easy. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because it really kind of baffled me as to why this was happening. But it was similar to like a life review, except for what was occurring, and it was effortless, virtually effortless, was I was integrating each and every phase, right? So each and every phase was leveling off and becoming whole, which to me, I found kind of, because I just hadn't been taken through it like that before. But then I realized that that's what's happening for all of us. Like that's what's happening, and I think the by force or by flow, and everyone has a certain threshold of pain, and what Michael said earlier, self-sabotage, self-harm. And at some point, as Morgan says, you got to pull your finger out. You know what I mean? Because it's you. And,
Yes.
and so I think the resistance is going to be less and less because of the momentum of those that are taking full ownership.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're at.
And it's beautiful because the judgment within us, as it's transmuted, it's literally replaced with compassion.
Yes, that's right.
And
that's right.
And what I was explaining to one of my friends the other day is my experience with the mirror is, when I was younger and people would talk about the mirror, I used to, confuse it for, no, this isn't being mirrored because I don't do that. That's not what I do, that specific behavior. But the mirror itself, like if you're projecting a judgment or shame, what it's mirroring back to you is that you're judging shame.
Yeah.
And what judges shame? Inner shame judges outer shame.
Yeah.
Right? So the mirror could just be your shame or your judgment for yourself is, and it could be a different experience, right? But your shame is finding the vibrational frequency of shame acting out, right? So when you see it, right, as soon as you feel it, and then you go like, oh, that's my own self-hatred.
Yeah.
Or that's a place inside of me that's unresolved where I've yet to transmute that experience. And then once it's transformed, there's a compassion that expands, and your experience with the outer world shifts because you remember when you were bound by that specific energy and how shame made you create and how you hid from your own shame because it took away that divine feeling of worthiness, right? It hid it.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of like now we feel that compassion expanding.
That's weird that you're saying that, because that was another thing that happened over this weekend was we all have like certain antagonists that, you know what I mean, in our lives. A lot of time it can be our mother, father, sibling, spouse, ex-spouse, whatever. So there's this one, the biggest one I've had in my life. And that's exactly what I went through or what I was shown, because and I check myself, I've talked about that. I'll check myself. I'll bring people in and I'll see where I'm at, and then I'll just work on it. But what happened was it revolved around lies, right? It revolved around lies. So there was a narrative built in my big Mexican family about who Todd was and all this stuff. And so I was in that, and I went, wait a minute, it's never them, it's always me. So I traced it down to this chief antagonist, and that's what happened. I was shown, or it was revealed that they were coming from shame, that the lies came from shame. And then I looked at my own shame, and I thought about the times that I'd lied. And I thought, oh, I was lying because I was ashamed. And then I looked at probably the biggest hurdle I had to overcome in terms of my own actions in my life. And there was no charge. Like I looked at that after I looked at the other shames, and I looked at this period of time when I just went fucking crazy and was drugged out and doing crazy stuff, punishing myself. But I went back and I looked at it, and because I worked on it for a long, long time, and I looked at it and I realized how ashamed I was in the actions that I took, and how ashamed I was after the fact. So there was two shames. And so anyway, when I went back to look at it, I was like, wow, I actually looked at it as the gift that it was, like the perfect design from the higher perspective. I created this perfect design because I then could see the reason that I did it. And it really was powerful because it actually led me into celibacy. And I didn't even know why I was going into celibacy, other than I was not going to put my body through anything or expose my body to anything. I had no idea what I was in store for. So it's like a reversal of, you look at like you just landed in a big pile of dew and you come out with a bucket of gold, Very cool. That's weird that you brought that up, though. Well, there's no coincidences.
Yeah. Well, I've been
Powerful.
for me just staying. Whenever I just feel like it's really effective for us to stay in conversation with our own judgments, because our own judgments usually stem from guilt and shame, inner guilt and shame. And so it's like for me, just constantly like asking myself, where is there energy inside of me that the light hasn't been able to break through.
Hmm.
You know, what am I what's being held? What's held there? And usually, like, if I just feel it deeply, I'll feel it transform. And it's even sometimes the mirror for me lately has been looking out into the world. And if there's a trigger point, sometimes it's okay, that behavior specifically isn't behavior that I navigate the world with right now. However, the program that's coming up and being mirrored back to me is the conceptual prison of victim consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Like feeling, that like, no, that's not fair because this used to happen to me when I was little. And then it's, oh, boom, there's the wound.
Mm-hmm.
There's right. So that's the mirror. It's wounding back to me. If I still felt victimized, there's a wound that's outstanding inside of me that needs to be felt and spoken to. Right. So that's the mirror. And that's the pain that's being triggered. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's just constantly locating and having a conversation with the energy itself. And that's what we see is we see the collective shame. And I think just another big thing is just the attachment, there's that attached, I forgot whose quote this is, but it's attached to nothing, connected to everything. And that's what the new paradigm is going to feel like, not being attached to the most powerful, prolific vibrational frequency in physical form, and not being attached to the denser frequency and form, right? But just literally a holy reverence for creation and the play and theater it's putting on for itself.
Yeah. Where nothing and everything is one and the same.
Yeah.
And I love honesty like this. Dr. Joe, who's usually funny, but I love this. I lied a lot because I didn't want to be told off by my mother. I became a pathological liar. It's still trying to creep in often in the form of exaggeration. So, that's good information right there, because that's applicable probably to everybody.
Absolutely.
We'll go around both you guys one more time, but I really wanted to mention something. First of all, let me mention that Michael's going to be on Friday in his first show. I'm very honored to be his first guest. Michael, you're going to put me out of a job. You're a natural, and I did not have the level of balance, and I had Morgan by my side. Thank God, because it accelerated my level of balance. But I did not have the level of balance when I started doing collaborations with other people and having these conversations that you have. And I think you're a natural, and I'm just honored that you're even here, to be stepping up and doing a show every week. So everyone knows I love Robert Sepper. He did this. He just did this one. It's called the Bach, B-O-C-K, the Bach Saga in Pagan Mythology. And the titles typically don't serve justice to the content. This one is 1 hour and 6 minutes, but I got to tell you something. From about the 30-minute mark, it's absolutely incredible. And in the last 15 or 20 minutes, there is a deep discussion. It's a video of a guy, and it's in regard to sexuality. And it's in regard to an oral history that was passed down from, thousands of years. They even said before the Sumerians, okay, before the Egyptians. So we're talking about holy, holy, holy here. And it has to do with I guess you would call it even gets into the etymology of climax, but it has to do with the climax. And I'm not talking necessarily orgasm here, okay? And again, this is a very, it's a very old sacred wisdom and practice, and it's fascinating, and it really taught me a lot. And I'm married to a sacred sexuality expert, as far as I'm concerned, who's been downloading this stuff for many, many years. But it was so interesting in regard to the intersection of physical and non-physical in the human body, where the core of our power is in our sexuality, in our sacred sexuality, in our life force, in our creative seed, right? And it's just mind-blowing. So I know it's a long one. I would highly recommend it. And if you just want to kind of drop in on it, I know at the 30-minute mark it gets really good for a while. But if you go to like the last 15, 20 minutes, it talks about this, and I can't even explain it. I'm gonna go back and watch it, make some notes. But anyway, I just wanted to say that and to honor that man, because he's doing some incredible stuff. And I guess I should mention one other thing too before we get off. You guys both, I want to go back to y'all before we get off, but also we I'm only saying this because I know it's a done deal. Finally. But our website is Marina Govier is working on our website, and she's absolutely amazing. Yeah, I'll write his name, and he's Robert Sepper, Sepher. He has 2 channels on YouTube. One is called Atlantean Gardens, and the name of that episode is the Bach Saga, Bock, in pagan mythology. Anyway, so Marina is an absolute wizard, goddess, whatever, and she is creating an incredible, beautiful, easy to navigate website. And so we are going to be doing this, launching this before the David Icke show. I don't know how many days. Could be a day, 5 days, 7 days. I figure about 5, 6, 7 days before. And we will have our channel on there. It will run 24 hours a day. That's already been arranged. We've just I got to upgrade our service and pay a little bit more. And so that's going to happen. I'm really excited about it. And I want to thank Marina Govier, because she's an absolutely amazing talent. And I just want to say thank you to her. And I love her very much for what she's doing. And it's so cool to be working with people that have no agenda. They come to work because it's their passion, but like both of y'all. So, and Delia started this whole damn thing. I just want to say that Delia was the first person that stood up and said, "Hey, I just want to help." So anyway, I just want to add that. Do you guys have any closing comments? Thank you for letting me speak.
Yeah, I want to see. Yeah, Marina has a big heart, and she's pure love, and she's a guiding light for me. So I want to say, yeah, I love all the work she's doing, and Leilani and Dahlia and you and Morgan, and now Marianne, I believe, right? Just it's been Maryland, and it's been fun to just come together. And I want to tell both of you I love you. Thanks for allowing me to share space with you both. And I just love being here. And thanks for everyone that's hanging out with us. I love all the comments. They're really deep. And I love how we get to interact with everybody. It's just exciting. And good luck. Keep sending love to everyone during the shift. It's intense.
Yeah. And Israel. Don't forget about Israel.
Oh, yes. Israel. How could I forget? I wouldn't be on here because I barely know how to turn on the computer.
Israel.
Yeah,
for sure. What do you got, Delia?
I'm just loving the energy of it all. I love how everything is falling into place, how the energy tells you when it's ready, when it's not, just to really go with the flow with it all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's happening. And if it's happening here, it's happening everywhere. At a minimum, it's available and accessible, but we're not the only ones. I mean, for all the pain and suffering and the shit, and all the stuff but everybody seems to have a smile on their face. Everybody's moving forward. And I've been saying for a long time, I think we've totally underestimated our progress. I think we're doing a great job, everybody. And the more clarity, with more clarity as it comes, I think we're all gonna start turning to each other and having more respect and more honor and more love, even for those that we've opposed or that have opposed us or whatever, you know, because shit, we all showed up, man. Every single one of us showed up. And like the mother goddess told me the first time she jumped into Morgan and sat had a conversation with me about 5 days into our first physical interactions, you guys knew what you were getting into, but you didn't. So right on. Okay, so we have Michael's show on Friday, and we have 2 shows today, and that is the 2 shows today is are Nanette Burnett and Melina Ferguson. Melina Ferguson's like Saskia. She's amazing. If you've never seen her, you got to tune in. So that'll be later today. That'll be the next one starts at in about an hour and 20 minutes, and then the other one is an hour after that. One's over. Love you guys. Peace out. Okay, I'm gonna go purge.